Hello and welcome to another edition of Here's the Pitch. I'm your YouTube friend Brad, and it's sponsored by Massa's Restaurants in St. Louis. 5 locations, stlmasses.com is their website. Go there whenever you want to come through St. Louis and get some delicious pasta. Find directions, stlmasses.com. It's another compilation. Again, new subscribers, maybe you haven't scrolled through and seen all the interviews, but I like to take some of the best moments and play them for you, so maybe you'll go back and watch the full interview, and I think a lot of people enjoy these. The last compilation I did seemed to get a lot of traction, so here's another one, and I'll start this one with an interview I did with Tracy Millman. Everybody loves Tracy. Well, how did she enjoy becoming part of the show? She's going to tell you, and I really enjoyed talking to her, so let's take a listen to that now. And you worked with Howard pretty closely, right? You had a lot of like inner dealings, meetings and things, right, or no?
Yeah, there were meetings. I did work with him closely, but it was weird because after the show, he would go into his office, he would do his thing for a little bit, and he would get up and leave. So I didn't have the time with him that everyone else did. I didn't go in during breaks. Like sometimes I did if I needed to give him a message or something like that. The most time I really ever spent with him, and I actually miss doing them once things all digital, is we used to do movie screenings. So every time a new movie would come out, the movie company would invite us to go to a private theater, and the whole crew could go. We would all sit and watch the movies, and I always had to meet him on the streets. And I remember one time we were seeing some movie in IMAX, and I had to meet him, and it was like 3 escalators up. And I swear to God, I think we were together maybe 3 minutes, and he knew my entire life story. I mean, and I don't know what it is about him, but he asks you a question and you legit just want to answer it. You want to tell him anything he wants to know. Like you melt into it. It's the weirdest thing I've ever seen in my life. But I would enjoy those little conversations with him and those times with him. He really is great. He's just a great guy. So
at some point you get on-air experience. Was that something you even cared about? And it was the grill oath, right? That's the real first time when we get to hear your voice and Tim gives you a show. But before that, I'm sure Howard's like, oh my God, radio gold. Like listening to Tracy take down Grillo, the way you say his name, the way you say douche, I would like to hear a little bit of that if we can. Just give me some, but it was such a funny thing. I know. I'm sure it's like, oh God, why do I have to hear this? And you said that people still say this to you, but just tell me a little bit about that. What was it like? Did you enjoy? Did you want to be on the air? And when Tim approached you about doing a show, right? And that's when this all happens, where you become sort of a character?
I didn't actually know. So as everyone knows, it happened on the intern show. And when I came in the next day and Howard played it on the show, and I remember the biggest fan of that entire thing was Artie Lange. He went nuts for it. But it was very weird to me because as much as that's when he was like, she's radio gold, I wasn't used to, and I'm still not, and I think this was one of the reasons also why I was just okay getting out of the industry. There are a lot of really shitty people out there who just want to bring you down and make you feel bad. And you really have to be strong to be able to put up with that stuff. And it was tough for me at first. Like I really didn't like it, but I guess they had the conversation. They decided they wanted me to try happy hour, which I did. And it just kept going. And I was like, I don't want to put up with this shit. Not only do I feel like I'm saying things that I wouldn't normally say, and I'm taking down people that I normally wouldn't take down for what? And then I'm getting berated by people I don't even know for the same reason. I'm like, I don't want to do this. So after the Gary one, well, that was pretty bad. Gary didn't talk to me for like 3 months after that. It was really bad. I was like, this just isn't worth it. I mean, it amazes me that I'm gone for 7 years and there are still people out there that are total shitheads that feel like they have to say something negative to me. Like, I moved on. Maybe you should move on too. And maybe you should try some therapy. I don't know. That's all I'm going to say.
But it is hilarious stuff. I mean, not the things that people say to you, but the things you said. As I told you in our pre-interview, I still walk around the house going to my wife, douche. She's like, stop, just stop. But it's funny. But you mentioned the Gary thing. How hard was that? Because, you guys are tight and you have to work together. And now you're on a radio show and And this is exactly what Howard wanted, right? So now you're trying to play.
What Howard wanted, but at the same time, I don't feel that I said anything that the Howard TV guys didn't say, like when they caught him sleeping in the office. Those were the things I brought up. And anything that I said was true. If there's one thing anyone who knows me knows about me is I am a straight shooter. I will tell you like it is. I don't sugarcoat shit, and it is what it is. Maybe he didn't like my delivery. Maybe it's, I don't know, because I wasn't a Scott DePace or a Doug Goodstein. He just took it a little harder when it came from me. But if I'm telling the truth and you don't like it, maybe you should look at the truth and not me, you know?
Well, and you even said in this, and I'm sure, to me, thinking about like the world today, it was boys club, right? And you're this Spitfire, you're not going to take any shit. And I think, yeah, and I don't think Gary liked that. But how hard was that? I mean, you really were one of the. Robin was a staunch female, but she's on the air, and it's totally different. Back in that room, I can't imagine there's a lot of women back there giving it to Gary, and that's I think why it was. It was probably shocking to him that you were doing that, but also probably hurtful because he thinks everybody loves him. He needs everybody to love him, right?
Oh, don't get it twisted, though. I actually do love Gary, and I still to this day love Gary. He was always good to me. He was always sweet to me. I did something because I thought I was supposed to do it. Would I have done it in any other day or even thought about the things that I brought up on that show had I not really kind of been asked to? No, absolutely not. You got to know your place. I mean, and I think in any other work environment, you do know your place. But here, it's so different. Like there, it was so different that you're expected to do things or to be a certain way. And I think it just gets the best of you a little bit. And you kind of just roll with what you think you're supposed to do, even if it's not something that you would normally do. I don't know if I'm describing it right. I don't know.
No, that's good. And that's what I was going to say is, did you ever say, listen, to Tim or to Gary, whoever, just, I don't really want to be on the air anymore. This was, I know it was kind of fun for you guys, but I don't need that anymore. Did that ever come up? And did they?
No, I did it in the studio with Howard. We had that conversation after the fight with Gary. Oh, hi, little dog.
Sparky, yeah.
I'm sorry. I get, I'm all doggy. After the second show, when I went in there and Gary and I had it out on the show, we decided that maybe this wasn't the best thing. And then, if you remember, I can't remember what the name of the show was, but Will, Jason, and Teddy did a similar show where they started to talk about everyone in the studio. And again, it led to the same problems. It led to the fights, which is great radio, but it became toxic in the office. Nobody wanted to talk to each other. Nobody trusted each other. And that didn't last that long either. I mean, this is one part of the show. This is one part of your job. So this is an hour. For the other 7 hours, now you hate everybody. Nobody wants to work like that.
I can't imagine it, actually. I mean, you ball bust, but then it's on the air and everyone else knows about it. That's why it's always interesting to me that and then Howard's kind of conducting it over here, enjoying it. He's like
Absolutely.
Turning.
It's like you sit there and it's like I remember I took Steve Brandano to go see the premiere for Iron Man. And I remember I was sitting on the bus coming into work and I had my little stiletto that I had gotten for Christmas, listening to the show. And Howard started to get angry. How come you've seen Iron Man and I haven't seen Iron Man? It was this whole big to-do and I freaked out so bad. And it's like you're constantly on guard because you constantly think something's going to get up, you're going to get in trouble, or something's going to make you get berated on air. And it's like I'm not having a conversation with 4 of my coworkers. I'm having a conversation with 25 million people. And it's creepy. I mean, it's creepy. And you're constantly on edge with everything you do because you never know what's going to come back in a good light, a bad light. And it's intense. It's intense.
But Benji is legitimately disgusting, right? Still, even today.
I don't even listen. I left that little bitch to do nothing but bark at me because he couldn't come to a comeback. So.
And he was the writer, and you would smoke him.
Yeah. And what does that say?
you mentioned Artie. I mean, he's super talented. Everyone knows it. But to get his impression of you, I mean, there's a person doing an impression of you. Did you love that? I mean, his impression was so great.
I loved it only because it was Artie. because I love Artie. I've always loved Artie. Artie has always, and like I said, like even after everything went down and I was so uncomfortable, people were attacking me, and some weren't attacking me. Some were really great about it. Artie was the one that I would go to when I had trouble with it, when I couldn't really grasp what was going on, because before that I was just the chick in the back office, and all of a sudden, and he would always be like, Tracy, don't worry about it. Like he would always just, and every once in a while I would even text him and he would just be like, you're gold. Like, fuck them. Don't worry about it. They're not your problem. Just ignore them. And he was really a good support. I don't even think he knows how much of a support he was.
How tough was that for you when he had his issues and then ultimately had to leave completely?
It was a bummer. It was a real bummer because he truly is one of the nicest, most generous people I've ever met in my entire life. And you never want to see somebody go down that path, but especially somebody who is so giving and nurturing and caring and just an all-around good person. And it broke my heart. It still breaks my heart to this day. Even like, you know, for everything that he's gone through and everything that went on with his nose. And like, I follow him on social media, and to see him now as to what I knew him at when I first got there, it's torturous. I mean, it's really torturous because he's just a doll.
Well, we hope he's doing well. I'm assuming, I always ask everyone, how's Artie if you talk to him? I'm assuming you are not in contact with Mr. Lange.
No.
That's too bad.
I think I reached out to him maybe 3 or 4 years ago on social media, but like in a DM, but that was it.
It's funny that because when I hear these conversations, I think of other things people have said, and everyone obviously has just glowing things to say about Artie. So the more I think about the fact that he did get to sleep or he would call in sick, if he was an asshole, you could just get rid of him. But it's impossible because he's such a good dude, and he's great on the show. So I'm starting to understand more that it was incredibly hard to just say, Artie, you can't come back anymore.
Yeah, it was a bummer. I mean, I don't even know how to elaborate on it. It was bad. I think the hardest thing I ever saw, though, was the day that he got into that big fight with Teddy. And you can even see in the video me coming up the hall, because Teddy and I were very good friends at the time. Just took Teddy out of the building. We walked around for a while, but I never saw like 4 to 5 men trying to hold back one man, and that man getting through. Like it, I mean, but now I think at the end of the day, we know it was drug induced and his adrenaline was going, and we had to get Teddy out of the building. And that, to me, was really heartbreaking to see him that way.
Yeah, I mean, it was funny and fun for a while, and then it did get, as a fan, just watching, like, oh, come on. It's just kind of, and part of you is like, Howard, don't you know what's going on? But it seemed like Howard really didn't know, or he found it funny. And that's the hardest part about all of it, I guess.
I don't know that it's looking back now, I can say that I saw all these things, or I knew what it was because now I know what it was. But back then, I don't really know that we all knew how bad it was. That boils down to. We knew there was something going on, but I don't think we knew the intensity of it.
Well, and that's what I can't remember who said it here, but they said, addicts know addicts, so they obviously know what's going on. Howard's not an addict. Fred's not Robin. So none of you, all you people are like not really in the Artie Lange show business, drug, John Belushi world, so you would have no idea. You just think, oh, he must have had too many drinks last night, or maybe, yeah, I get it. So we hope he's doing well. I really do, and I hope to have him on here. Teddy, you mentioned it. Any contact with Teddy? Everyone asked me about that.
I haven't talked to Teddy in a while. Last I knew about Teddy, he and his wife had like a sandwich truck, like a whatever they're called. I can't even think of the word right now. Then I think he opened a restaurant, but I think since then he's closed it. But don't quote me on that. But I don't really know where Teddy has gone. Yeah. I hope he's doing well, though, him and Poppy.
Yeah. Well, I'm going to name some names. You just say what you want to say, all right? Will Murray.
Who?
Will Murray.
Oh, I love Will. Will's a good guy.
Jason Kaplan.
Huh?
Jason Kaplan.
I saw recently on Twitter they had put a thing up of Jason. He looks phenomenal. And I love his wife and I love his pets. And I follow them on all social media. And he has the cutest blind beagle, which just melts my heart that he would do that because I have a handicapped dog too. Yeah, I don't really have anything. I don't think there's anyone that you could bring up that I would really have something nasty to say about.
Was it tense around there though for everyone, including yourself? Because that's a weird, when something like that happens, you know, it's got to be tense and people are walking around scared about their jobs and everything. Well, how did you feel like a tenseness, and were you tense?
Listen, it was different. I mean, you know, one day I was in my own office, the next day I was in Gary's office. Like, I remember my best friends, I spent the weekend at my best friend's out on Long Island, and that Sunday she had, I don't know, a bridal shower or something. So I stayed at the house and I was babysitting her kids while she was gone. And her husband, I don't know, was playing golf or something. And I come back to the city the next day. I go to work. I'm sitting in my office. She calls me and she's like, my sister died last night. She had a stroke, massive stroke. She died. MARCI comes walking in the office. So you have to be out of here by Wednesday. And I'm literally sitting here talking about somebody who had been in my life for 20 years passing away. And MARCI's just like, you got to be out by Wednesday. So I was like, what the fuck? Like, it was weird, but I really don't have anything to say about MARCI. I really think at the end of the day, she's been more of a benefit than people give her credit for.
Yeah, I mean, obviously there's another contract, another 5 years. So Sirius seems to enjoy it. There must be subscribers, so it is working. And Howard's almost 70, right? I mean, he like you were saying, anal ring toss doesn't work when a 70-year-old's doing it.
No, it's gross with a 70-year-old. No, it's like watching my father with anal ring toss. I'm not interested. No.
Great, thanks to Tracy. What a nice lady, and it was really fun to talk to her and kind of hear that voice again in the back of my head. Next one is Shuli. I did a long interview with Shuli when he left the Stern Show right after he left, and that was awesome that he did it. He's still out doing his thing, but I was always interested in his becoming one of the Wack Pack whisperers, and so we talk about that a little bit. Here's just a little piece of that. Again, you can see this whole interview if you just go to my playlist. Make sure you subscribe because I'm always adding new Stern interviews. But here's Shuli talking about becoming the Wack Pack whisperer. And the underdog lady, was she the original QAnon? What is her deal? I've always wondered about her. Because she doesn't have Down syndrome. A little respect for my lady, Brad, for I knocked that toupee off your fucking head. Tell me, what is her, all the other Wack Packers I can kind of figure out. Now, yeah. I've watched the Channel 9 show. I mean, I came in the early 90s, Channel 9 show, saw the underdog lady. I'm shocked she's still alive. I'm shocked she still does the same. I mean, it's amazingly great that she does not change. I think it may, as I'm talking myself through it, she may be my favorite Wack Packer because of that. That there's been no change to this character. Tell me, what is her deal? Her deal is called autism, I believe, or Asperger's. I'm not sure which one. She's definitely on the spectrum. She's a lovely woman. You hit it on the head. She is who she is, and she will not falter or sway for anyone. And as a lifelong fan of the show and seeing her on Channel 9, all those appearances, I remember when I started working up there very vividly one day thinking to myself, I am going to get this woman back on the show. But at that point, it was about, I guess, doing what was done in the past, right? I guess in my mind at that point, I was like, I'm going to get her back on the show so we can goof on her. But then when I started talking to her and spending time with her on the phone and really, there's no 5-minute conversations with Suzanne. They're all 40 minutes, 35 minutes, and you're hearing 2 minutes of it. It's not to say that the rest is shit. It's just that's what you're hearing. That's the best of the best. Once I got to know her and she really opened up to me, that's when I was like, you know what? We shouldn't bring her in and goof on her. And Howard, to his credit, was like, I'm not looking for her to come in. I like her talking through you and to you. I like that. And I liked it too. And for me as a fan, to be able to just have her voice back on the air in any way. And I actually had her call in once when Kimmel was there. So for me, that was like, I succeeded. I got her back on the show, even though she wasn't happy about it. But I still talk to her regularly. That's somebody that I will not break ties with. And
you know, I tried to, because again, I'm still a fan of the show. I want both worlds to exist, you know, and I tried to kind of set her up with somebody over there to talk to, but she does not want to talk to anybody else over there. So I think what I'm going to do is do like a podcast with her, a free one. And then that way the show can just use clips of that and she can still be on the show. You know, everybody wins, right?
That is very sweet of you.
I mean, she needs to be heard. I'm sorry. That's just these conversations. They should be in the fucking Smithsonian. I'm sorry. They're just amazing.
I think I was driving around maybe 3 months ago and they were playing something and it was her and I had not heard her in forever. And it was like literally like took me back to when I was 18 watching the show. And I'm like, this woman has not changed. I love it. She'd do these parades and it's like I said, the fact that she has not taken the stardom, I don't know anything about her.
I said to her, we can answer, you know, questions from listeners. They can email. And she just goes, I don't have email. I'm not asking you to get email. Relax. So.
Well,
sweetheart.
I've enjoyed our time here. I guess my last question would be, who do you not miss from the show? Jason Kaplan? Who's the one person you're like, I'm glad I don't have to work with that guy or girl? You don't have to answer that.
I don't have anybody that who? What did you say?
You don't have to answer. I said you don't have to answer, but it's Baba Booey.
No, man. Listen, Baba Booey, while we had our battles, was instrumental in me turning it all around and getting the airtime that I eventually got up there. You know, us fighting on the air was a big changing point for me. So I refuse to have. Were there days that people pissed me off that I was like, fuck this dude or fuck her or whatever? Yeah, absolutely. But I don't take that shit with me, man. I wish the best for everybody. I hope everybody succeeds over there. I know I'm going to succeed over here. And yeah, I miss everybody over there, man. I wish them all the best.
Big thanks to Shuli. Hopefully we'll have him on again, but he's doing his thing and appreciate him doing that. Another person that I'm always interested in talking to, I've been a long time, friend, actually, I could say maybe, acquaintance, whatever. Bob Costas. Bob Costas is from St. Louis, and he actually moved to St. Louis in the early 80s, but we always say he's from St. Louis. And I've always wondered his thoughts on Stern and Artie, and it was weird to kind of let those two worlds collide. So I did ask him these questions. I think he was a smidge annoyed. You can see the full interview with Bob. We talk sports all the time, but he is clearly doing something different with his career. But we got into some Stern talk here and Artie Lange's situation on the Joe Buck show and how he would handle that. So I think this is fun. Take a listen. Yeah, I'm a huge Artie Lange fan, and I'm curious if he'll be on the HBO show. He had kind of a debut there one time. I don't think he'll be on, but I'm curious. Did you see that moment when he was with Joe Buck? Joe Buck basically sort of, took on your time slot in that show. What did you think of that, and how would you have handled that? Because it was a different show than you were trying to do. I think Joe was trying to lighten up a little bit with a little more comedy, a little more entertainment flair. But what was your thoughts when you saw it, and how would you have handled a situation like that?
Well, two things. Artie Lange is not my cup of tea. I would not have invited him on. If I did 100 shows, I would not have invited him on. I thought it was very unfortunate for Joe because Artie stupidly ruined Joe's first show, and it sent the show into kind of a downward spiral. So A, I wouldn't have had him on, but B, if I did, and he started to act that way, I would have thrown him off the show. We're not here for this. Take a hike. Here's something though. Joe is very talented and he's very good. Like on Brock Meyer, he's terrific. He's very good in these comedic situations. So there's no doubt that he can do a show that's a hybrid between sports and entertainment, that he can do comedic stuff. But people tend to want everything to go into one neat little category. So if it's like, oh, well, Bob was doing the serious journalistic stuff and Joe is more lighthearted, just look at who the guests were on the record. I had to make a choice. HBO made me choose between staying with them or going to the new baseball network. It was a tough choice, and I went to the baseball network. But right up until that time, among the guests on the show, were Chris Rock and Jerry Seinfeld and Richard Lewis and Tina Fey and Rodney Dangerfield and Billy Crystal and Jon Stewart and on and on and on. You know, so this idea that one guy's straight-laced and the other guy's more freewheeling, usually things are more nuanced than that. There's usually a combination of factors. And if there isn't a combination of factors, then you're pretty one-dimensional.
And then Norm Macdonald was the other person we mentioned there, and it made me start thinking, well, man, you were on that building. SNL's right there. How often did you go? Did you watch rehearsals? Tell me a little bit about just being in that building, knowing that's a special place. I mean, that show was 15 years old probably in the point where you started doing later, but you're at NBC even earlier than that. I mean, 1985. It started in 75, so we can do the math.
Yeah, 75. I arrived at NBC in 1980.
Did you ever go hang out and watch them rehearse and get to know those? I mean,
I would go. You know, Dick Ebersol, who became the head of NBC Sports in the late 80s, was the co-creator of Saturday Night Live with Lorne Michaels in the mid-70s. And then there was a period of time in the early 80s when Lorne took a celebrated hiatus away from the show, and Dick came back in and ran the show and brought in some of the best performers in SNL history. So Dick had that connection. So Dick and I were close. So a lot of times we'd, wander up there. We were on the 6th floor. They were in 8H. We'd wander up there and see what was going on. Sometimes we watched rehearsals. Sometimes we watched dress rehearsals. Sometimes we watched the live show when it rolled out at 11:30. Sometimes people will say to me, when do they tape that? No, it's Saturday Night Live. It's live, pal, with all the danger that implies.
Did you ever go down there and see something being rehearsed and go, this is going to, something crazy like Wayne's World, or just something that came out of nowhere, or was it more just kind of being around that building?
Well, when Rickles was the guest host, and everybody revered him, all the young comics totally revered Don Rickles, the way they revered Dangerfield. It's like, this isn't what we do, but we recognize why it was great. And there were living legends. Rickles would not stay on script. So these guys are trying to figure out, where do I come in with this line that we rehearsed? But Rickles just went off and did a Rickles thing the whole time. And if you ever come across, it's many, many years ago, but if you ever come across it, you'll see the other Saturday Night Live players. They're trying not to laugh when they're not supposed to laugh according to the script. And he just commandeered the whole show, but it was brilliant in its own way. The other thing that people don't know is that the dress rehearsal is usually 2 hours. And they judge, there's an audience, and then a new audience comes in for the actual show. So the dress rehearsal is like at 8 o'clock. And then they judge what works. So a half hour's worth of material, minus commercials, goes away. And they might rearrange. Like, hey, that fourth thing worked better than the second thing. Let's move the fourth thing to the second spot.
So you've heard me mention this before, if you remember, who knows, but as a child, my Mount Rushmore of broadcasting, and you've kind of been a little angry with me about this, is you. It was David Letterman, then it was Howard Stern and Vince McMahon. So as I've evolved and I've gotten older,
This was baseball 2 for 4.
Be hitting 500, but no one really cares about batting average anymore. But we'll talk about baseball in a second. But I was curious because me and you've kind of hinted around Howard Stern and kind of talked about how he's kind of changed. Is that something that you might see yourself being on that show, or have you enjoyed how he's evolved? And because I know I've heard you talk about that a little bit, that it's been interesting to see him change his sort of way he goes about doing his radio show.
He is an exceptional interviewer. And you could always tell that he was an extraordinary radio talent. But for my taste, some of that talent was misdirected. There was a lot of mean-spirited stuff, Schadenfreude type stuff, reveling in other people's misfortune or humiliation type of thing. You could tell that he was talented and capable of better than that. But now on Sirius XM, it's a whole different thing. He has all the time in the world to develop a subject, to delve into an interview. And more often than not, it's very, very good. He's one of the best interviewers on any broadcast platform. And he's obviously very intelligent, and he's obviously also curious. Even when he's talking with someone where it's kind of outside his expertise or knowledge, and he's not really, for example, a big-time sports fan, and you can tell that he doesn't have some of the particulars like you might, but he still asks good questions. And that comes from a lively, intelligent curiosity. So, you know, if I was evaluating Howard Stern, the first half of his career, I would say not my cup of tea, but obviously talented. But now I would say not only is it very, very good, but I'm a fan of it.
Would you be on the show if they asked?
I guess. I don't know.
It's a Zoom call. It's a Zoom call.
I'm not lobbying for it.
So I thank Bob and I thank everybody who's been part of the show. Again, you can go through my playlist, take a look, and see the Howard Stern interviews. I'm doing comedians who are coming through town, WWE stars, athletes. Here's the Pitch is the name of the podcast. Anybody who's got a pitch, I want to hear from them. But yeah, we'll stick with some of these Stern-type interviews as they seem to garner the most attention. Again, I appreciate you all coming by here, subscribing. I promise you some new, fresh content coming soon, and I think you're going to like it. But that's going to do it for today's show. Thanks to Masses, my title sponsor, stlmasses.com, and